Health and fitness with David Hollywood.
With DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service at dssports.ie.
Hello and welcome to this week's programme. Very shortly you're going to hear the raw, unfiltered emotion behind the Westmeath man who's committed to run 4 marathons in 4 days in memory of his father and in support of the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association. Health and Fitness was in Mountrat this week for Stage 2 of Rosnamon. You'll meet the best racers from the Midlands, including the stage winner, as well as a woman who makes it all tick in the background. And we celebrate the career of a man who's been coaching Irish international underage basketball for 20 years. As we head to October, we're closing in on the Dublin City Marathon of 2024. It's a huge day for the running community, and of course we've just had the Tullamore Half Marathon, another great event that went off brilliantly this year courtesy of the Tullamore Harriers and everyone part of that broader community. I'm joined on the show this evening by a man from Moat, based in Athlone, who'll be taking on the Dublin City Marathon, but incredibly will be doing 3 marathons in 3 days before that. James Gillivan is doing all of this for the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association. I started our chat by asking James what motivates him to take on such a challenge.
Thanks very much, David, for having me on this evening. Probably two key things to take on this challenge. The first one will be the care that the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association gave my dad since he was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. Right to the end, it was phenomenal, the support they gave him. And the second one, obviously, then is my dad. It's in memory of him. It's for him, and it's something that I wanted to do for him. You know, he knew I was doing it. It's for him. He's my why, I guess, you know.
You lost your father recently then. When was he diagnosed? When did he pass away?
Yeah, so my dad was diagnosed in late October, early November with motor neuron. And then he sadly passed away on the 28th of March of this year. So not a big window there, and definitely not enough time to say all the things that you'd like to say to him. But, you know, it's a really, really cruel disease that just takes and takes and takes. The one thing I will say is it never took that little bit of charm or wit that people would know him for. That little bit of twinkle was all that was in his eye, you know, I guess right up until the very end.
Let's talk about the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association and the work that they do and that you observed, because from what I understand, it wasn't very long in dealing with them that you realised you actually wanted to do something like this pretty much as soon as you saw the work that they do.
Yeah, that's true, David. You know, the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association is their primary care and support organisation for people living with motor neuron disease, you know, the families and friends. You know, they do some really key services like, you know, they organise visits from specialised nurses, speech and language therapists, dietitians, physios, and then the other probably key thing is the loan of specialised equipment that will help people, you know, in navigate the disease maybe towards the end. They also do a lot of fundraising to promote research into the causes and the treatments of motor neuron disease. You know, for me, since that he was diagnosed, you know, within a very short space of time, it just felt like it was this kind of arms around support of all the kind of services that he would need. Unfortunately, they would come out to the house, they would do an assessment on the house, you know, like on small things like doors, and, you know, what they're really doing is, I guess, they are future-proofing probably the decline within the person that's likely to come as part of the disease. Probably the straw that broke the camel's back for me would be, it was a small thing, but actually it's a big thing for me and probably a big thing for the family, was they managed to organise a double bed. So I know, you know, they were future-proofing the bedroom that my dad would be in. Listen, my mum and dad were married for 53 years. They probably spent a handful of nights apart from each other in that time, you know. So I think there was big. I know my mum would have had concerns about Dad being in his own specialised bed, and her would not, you know, been in a single bed in the same room. But, you know, she was his primary caregiver, and it was important that, you know, she was beside him the whole time. So it was that small little thing of a double bed, kind of very early since his diagnosis, that I just said, I have to do something for these people who've done just it's just one thing that meant a lot to both me and the family, and I know to my mum as well. So it was just that small little thing that I had to do something to raise money and just give something back to a really, really, really good organisation.
So the work that they do that you observed, I haven't seen them up close. I only have anecdotal evidence, but I think a lot of people are like that. Did it surprise you just how complete and kind of all enveloping the support and the care is that they do provide?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, like, it's just, I guess they've been through this with so many different people. They know what's coming down the line, from things like physios, speech and language therapists. I mean, like, we recorded my dad's voice a couple of months after his diagnosis. His voice was low at the time anyway, but it was likely to disappear totally. So he was going to probably end up communicating through a piece of software that motor neuron had developed. And we'd recorded a certain amount of his voice up until he passed as well. So that's kind of all those little things that they're just trying to give that person the most dignified time, I guess, on whatever time they've got left. It's just done in the most subtle, caring. There's no stone left unturned, and anything they can do for the patient and the family, they'll do their best to do it. And that's kind of, it's just remarkable care to give someone.
As you said, you've been very motivated to express your gratitude to the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association for the work that they do, and you also want to honour the memory of your father as well. The way you've chosen to do that is through the medium of running. So what is it about running, considering you're doing 4 marathons in 4 days? We'll talk about the specific challenges shortly, but let's just bring it down to the basic idea of how you're going to express your gratitude. You chose to do it through running.
Yeah, so I took up running maybe in 2016. I retired from playing football from my local GAA club. There's probably some of your listeners from my club will say he never actually took to properly played football at all. But yeah, I stopped in 2016, and after that I just realised that I needed to start getting back, being active again. So I took up running, and in 2017 I did my first Dublin Marathon. But what brought me to here was, it was the only way I could think of doing something to give back, and I had sourced the place for the Dublin Marathon for this year, but I just didn't think it was enough of a stretch, David. I really wanted it to be something a bit more that would honour him and hopefully make people put their hand in their pocket and think it's a worthwhile cause. If someone's doing something kind of half crazy like that, that they might feel it worthwhile. But it was that I had to do something big. It was something to honour him, and this is how I felt I could give back in that way regard, I guess.
We're going into a break shortly, but before we break, we'll give out, let's cover the details of how people can support your fundraising efforts, because at last I checked, your ambition to do that bit extra for the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association by putting together this crazy challenge seems to have paid off. Like, it's over €7,000 raised so far. What's the goal, and how can people help you reach that?
Yeah, the response has been just phenomenal, to be honest with you, David. I kind of wasn't expecting the level of funds that come in so far. You said what's the target? There is no target here. Whatever I can get to give back to motor neuron, I'm more than delighted with what we have now, but I'm kind of that type of person. I'm not going to stop now. We need to keep going and try and gather in more money if we can. And for every cent that someone has donated so far, I can't thank you enough. It's a brilliant thing so far to even to be able to hand over that amount of money, but I think there's more there. So we're going to try and gather that in. How can people donate? They can donate through my I Donate page, which is I Donate, and it's Run 4MND. So it's the number 4 to emphasise the 4 marathons. If they click through on that, they'll see a picture of me and my dad, and they can donate there. Leave a message as well. I'd love a message of support or encouragement, or maybe something about my dad would be nice as well.
Run 4MND on I Donate, and you've handed me a flyer with all the information on it. I'm looking at a picture of yourself and your father there. Is that on your wedding day? That
is on my wedding day. He's got a great smile on him. He's in great form that day. I have a smile on me as well, but I won't lie, I'm very, very nervous. Thankfully I married a lovely girl from Cavan, but that reception was up in Cavan, and anyone who knows my dad, he's a real good joke teller, prankster, and just all around great character. I was terrified until he finished his speech. I was really afraid he was going to start telling Cavan jokes, and that one kind of alienated me from maybe half the audience. Thankfully, I don't think he did. I think he ended up telling a joke about, I think it could have been, I can't really remember, I think it was about a Cavan man, the Pope and a haircut. I'm not too sure where it went, but most of the people that were at the wedding still talked to me, so it went down well.
Yeah. That's he had a sense of propriety anyway to keep the political lines in the right way there. And just give us his first name, because obviously he's daddy to you, but what was he to everyone else?
He would have been called Andy or the Doll. Some people called him the Doll. He had a nickname the Doll from a very young age. I kind of never really knew until the funeral what it was about. But what the story I have is that he was such a lovely little baby in a pram. He was like a doll. So that's what but Andy Gillivan is his name, and there's probably a lot of your listeners definitely in the Offaly region would know him. My parents and my uncle Larry and my Aunt Jan had a business in Moat for 40 years, but my dad had a travelling shop where he sold fruit and veg to people in Pulla, Burr, Clara, Clohan, all these places. He did that for 40 years, and he had a great relationship with those people on his roots around Offaly. So yeah, he's really well rooted in the Midlands.
Well, this is a fitting tribute, and if anyone wants to contribute to the I Donate page, it's Run for MND. We're going to take a quick break, as I said. When we come back, we're going to try figure out how you approach running 4 marathons in 4 days. Stay with us on Health and Fitness.
Health and Fitness.
With DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Experience lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service for all your sporting needs at DS Sports. With gear ready in as little as 5 days. Contact 085 87 15 311 or info@dssports.ie.
Midlands 103.
You're very welcome back to the programme. I'm joined by James Gillivan from Moat, based in Athlone, taking on 4 marathons in 4 days in aid of motor neuron disease. The Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association is set to benefit. If you want to donate, it's Run for MND. James, 4 marathons in 4 days, that's an extreme challenge. So it takes a fair bit of preparation. It takes a fair bit of planning. And it's very specific and bespoke. So tell us, how did you go about figuring this out at the start?
So as I said to you earlier on, it needed to be a challenge that was a stretch. And I've done maybe 6 or 7 marathons so far, and I just felt that it needed to be a bit more than that. So thankfully I've been given a place in the Dublin Marathon, but I came up with the idea of how to get to Dublin then, and I realised that it's about 70 odd miles along the way, so I could fit in another 3 marathons going up that way. So that was the plan. My original plan was to run the main road from Moat to Athlone to Thurles Pass to Enfield, and Enfield to Dublin, and then on the final day, then the Sunday, to do the Dublin Marathon. But I had a good conversation with a guy who's done a ridiculous challenge, something similar like this, only on a totally different level. A lovely guy from Mullingar called Jerry Duffy, and he mentioned to me about traffic management on the main road, and it was something I hadn't considered. But thankfully we got a great Greenway and Royal Canal system, so that's where I'm going for the first 3 days. Day 1 will be Athlone to Mullingar on the Greenway. Day 2 will be Mullingar to Enfield on the Royal Canal, and day 3 then is Enfield to Croke Park on day 3.
It's going to be a psychological challenge as much as a physical challenge as well, because you've done a few marathons at this point. You know how much energy it takes out of you, not just that night or the next morning, but that kind of energy deficit. People usually feel it for a few days, and even when you go back training, the legs aren't the same for a while, but you're putting load after load onto the body. So the mind is going to have to be ready for this as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the body is one thing. I think the body will do what the mind will tell it to. So if I get the mind right, the body will follow. Okay, but I do need to do a high level of training within a concise block. So take, for instance, last week as an example, I did 62 miles, which is roughly it's 100 kilometres. But the bulk of that, 90% of that, was in the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday block, which is kind of to replicate what I will be doing. So, like, if you think of it, I'll be doing 26.2 each of those 4 days, so it's 105 miles roughly. I've done marathons before, but I've only done one. Like, and generally the next day I will get up, I will be very sore, and the stairs will be challenging. So I have to try and slow down, do the mileage, and just, I suppose the training is where my body will get used to that tiredness and that hardship. The mind will follow. As I said to you at the start, my dad is my why, motor neuron is my why. That's always going to be on my shoulder. That will be a key driving force for me. As I said to you, I've thought about this a lot, and I got in touch with motor neuron last December on this, and I spoke to my dad about it as well. But at the start, like, I visualised the route, and I've done parts of the route. I've been on the canal. The one thing that was there at the start was my dad was going to be at the finish line, and like, he's not going to be there now. So, excuse me, he'll be there. He'll be there in some capacity. I know he'll be on my shoulder effectively, but I'll get through it. My mind is very strong, and I will do it. It's in honour of him, and he'll be the driving force.
Yeah, listening to you this evening, I've absolutely no doubt that the psychological side of it will be manageable. How have you found those training blocks physically then, that you've, because it's good to hear you kind of are replicating what you'll be taking on already. How have you found that kind of Thursday, Friday, Saturday block of high level of kilometres and that type of thing?
Yeah, it's tough. So Thursday, Friday, I'm working. I start work at 8 o'clock, so I have to be up at 5 to get some mileage done. At the minute, I'm probably doing 12, 13 miles on the Thursday and the Friday. Saturday then could be 16 or 20 miles, and Sunday will probably be 16 or 20 miles as well. How has it been? It's been tough, but I mean, like, I have to get my head around that, because that's what's coming down the line, nutrition, all these things, I have to get all of that right, and recovery as well will be key to getting up and going again in each of the 4 days that I do this. How's the training been going? It's been going well, thankfully, and just touching wood here as I speak, because the only thing that's going to stop me here is injury, and I mean, that's something that's completely out of my control, so I can't worry about that.
Tell me about the recovery strategy for the 4 marathons in question, or I suppose the 3 marathons leading into the last day. How are you going to make sure that you're as fresh as you possibly can be? Yeah, good question. So ideally, what I do at the minute is I come back to the house after a run, and I stand in an ice bath for a couple of minutes and let the legs cool down, and maybe take some inflammation out of the legs. On the route, ideally, after I finish each day, David, it's going to be key. Within an hour, I would like to be back where I'm staying. I'm going to be staying en route, so I'd like to be back in wherever I'm staying, in a bath, cold bath ideally, maybe to get some sort of a rub from a physio, and then getting some loading back up with grub, with carbohydrates, and carb loading again, because it's just one day finishes. Within an hour, I have to get ready for the next day. That's the way it's going to be, because if I don't, I'm going to fail. So that's key, is within the hour, there's a window there that I want to be back and already starting my recovery process for what the next day will bring. And most people, a lot of people have like benchmarks or goal times when it comes to marathons, and they usually relate around or revolve around how quickly they can do it. As you've alluded to here, you kind of have to control yourself so that you're going at a sustainable pace. Have you got a target time in mind that you want to run on a kind of daily basis?
No, not as such. Really, the goal is to start or finish what I started, and do the run each day and raise as much money as I can. Times in previous marathons would have been important to me for this challenge. It's not. It's about finishing what I started in honour of my dad and raising money for motor neuron. You're
going across the Midlands, it just occurs to me, all the way to Dublin, so there's plenty of mileage to cover. I presume people can get out and cheer you on, or even get involved and follow you along?
Yeah, if anyone knows anything about running or anything else, a problem halved is a problem, a problem shared is a problem halved. So if people if they could donate, that'd be great. If people want to join me on the route, that'd be amazing too. Like, I'm going on the Greenway, I'm going along the Royal Canal as well. It's a very safe track. I would like to think it's going to be a bit of fun along the way as well, with jokes and a bit of crack with people joining me. So if you're on the Greenway, if you're on the Royal Canal on any of those days and you'd like to join me, I'd love to meet you.
The first 3 days, Athlone to Mullingar, Mullingar to Enfield, and then Enfield to Croke Park.
Yeah.
And then the Dublin City Marathon is the day that you finish up. So you've done the Dublin Marathon before. It's an amazing event. I can only imagine the euphoria, even on the start line, if you've gotten through those 3 days injury free and you're then taking part in this year's Dublin Marathon to complete the journey. That promises to be a special day, Sunday, October 27th.
It will be a special day. I'm really looking forward to getting up to Dublin on the Saturday, relaxing, going over to the RDS, picking up my number and getting ready for Sunday. I'm not sure what wave I'm going to be on the Sunday, but put me on the start line at 9 o'clock, let me go. Hopefully I'm going to be still in good form and, working mechanically as well. But the crowds in Dublin are generally amazing. It's so much fun up there. That's kind of a difficult thing to say when you're doing 26 miles, but it is actually fun out there, and people are so supportive with their their cheering and their messages and stuff. It's really, really good. So if I can get to Dublin the last day, which I will, that's going to be, I hope to just maybe scoot around the last day and just enjoy it, because it'll be the end of a great challenge. It'll be very emotional, I've no doubt, because it'll be just finishing something that you promised someone that you're going to do.
Yeah, and we wish you the very best in all of this. We thank you for coming in to talk to us this evening. You want to mention something before we finish up?
Yeah, I need to mention a few people who've helped me out so far. I mean, I have to firstly mention my wife and my girls, because they've been, they've been very patient. I mean, to do something like this, you have to get very selfish with your time, and I'm probably that little bit more tired, that little bit more cranky, and I'm prioritising going running instead of doing other things. But it'll be over in the end of October, and I'll be back to being my dad. So I have to thank my wife, my girls. Secondly, I have to thank my own family, so especially my mum and my brothers and sisters who've been really supportive. And then I also need to mention a good friend of mine, Niall Mackey, who's looking after my social media both on Instagram and Facebook. So it's Run for MND 2024. If people know me, they know I can't stand social media. So thankfully Niall has taken this off my hands and just let me do the running. He will be giving you weekly updates on how training is going and who I'm running with. But I also wanted to maybe every week or every second week to maybe tell you something about my dad, because this is who it's for, this is what it's about. Maybe tell a little story about him, or tell him about his character, because it needs to tie back to the human story in this. I mean, it's for him. I just happen to be the vessel kind of that's doing this. It's for him, it's for Motor Neuron, and that's what the story I'd like it to be about. I don't want it to be about me at all, and that's why I don't like the social media side of it. I need it because it promotes stuff. But I need to say thanks to Niall, and I also need a special mention to Ian Allen, who helped me with graphics for posters and stuff like that. So, and if we've left out anyone, I apologise, but I've been blown away by the support so far.
Well done to everyone in helping you get to this point so far, James. Thanks for coming in to talk to us about your father, Andy, and well done on everything so far, and best of luck for those big 4 days. Next up, we're bringing you straight into the heart of Ireland's greatest cycling stage race.
Health and fitness
with DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Experience lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service for all your sporting needs at DS Sports, with gear ready in as little as 5 days. Contact 085 87 15 311 or info@dssports.ie.
Midlands 103.
Welcome back. Rosnamon, the country's biggest stage race in cycling, returned to Laois this week. I went down to Mount Rath to catch the riders and teams as they finished a gruelling day in the saddle. And good thing I did. Here's Mullingar's Caoimhe O'Brien, winner of Stage 2 of Rosnamon.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really, really happy. We set out a plan for today with the team, and yeah, after we got a 1, 2, 3 yesterday and picked up all the race jerseys, so we stuck with the plan and executed it. So I'm delighted, to be honest.
It sounds simple, stick with the plan and execute it, but you got to get over the cut first. How was the big sort of 7k category 1 climb?
Yeah, it was hard. I've used the cut for a couple of my 20-minute power tests before, so I was quite familiar with it because it's not too far from home. But we had a plan. Lucy, my teammate, was going for the QOM jersey, so she focused on that, and then one of my teammates, Frankie, kind of focused on helping me get over it and make sure that stayed with the front group. So yeah, just kind of have to grit your teeth and switch your brain off to just get over it and suffer with the pain. But yeah, it was grand.
How fast do you go down that descent then into Mount Rath and do that loop and come back again? Because I was talking to Ellen McDermott, who was at the front of the second group, and she was saying you must have been absolutely on rails going down.
Yeah, I to be honest, I wasn't really looking at my little bike computer too much to see how fast, but yeah, we were fairly going for it. And yeah, I think the group worked really well together, and that's how we stayed away and everything. So when you've got everyone cooperating and you can keep the speed up, we didn't need to worry about it regrouping. So yeah, it was a good race.
Final question, the last few hundred metres here, how did you manage it? Would yourself and me have figured out something roughly beforehand?
Yeah, well, I think that the main focus, because I'm focusing on trying to get the GC for the overall race, because we haven't actually had an Irish winner in 12 years, which is quite shocking, but yeah, we're going to try to change that. So yeah, I was kind of focusing on getting the bonus seconds, because for the top 3 riders there's bonus seconds that you can get. So yeah, we were focusing on that, and then also trying to keep the jerseys and get as many of us on the podium. So yeah, it just worked out well.
Congratulations to Caoimhe for winning that photo finish against her teammate Mia, who I can tell you has already won 2 stages on this year's Ross. Next, we catch up with Offaly and Tullamore racer Ellen McDermott from Team UCD Cycling Club. Ellen led a sizable second group over the line into Mount Rath. She tells us about how she got on what is pretty much a home stage for her.
I was in the front group, at the front of the race, going up the cut, but I was just saying there, it's about 500 metres too long, and then with the Queen of the Mountain points at the top, the girls who are looking for that competition, they're ramping it over the top, and then by the sounds of it, Jen, who's in the lead car, they absolutely railed the descent. So as fast as we were going behind them, we never actually caught the front of the race again. And then I just came in a group there behind everybody, or behind the front group, so we were in a massive group, group 2 on the road, and it was just one big long chain gang the whole way for about 40k. Quite impressive.
It's heavy duty racing. You're here with UCD, the UCD team. How are you guys getting on as a group, and how's the rest of the Ross na Mon looking for you?
Well, we've got the Olympic Soigneur who's just fresh from the Olympics with the girls at the Team Pursuit, so Dee. She's an absolute godsend, and the guys who are in the car, they've done this, they just do this all the time, so they're well versed in everything. So you basically have to do nothing but ride your bike. I think they have more stressful time than we do.
Now, to finish up on Ross na Mon, you're about to meet a very special woman. This is Wendy Cull. She's a soigneur for Team Cycling Ireland, and she basically keeps the riders on their feet over the course of these gruelling races. She's been telling us just how much she enjoys it all.
It's superb, the actual camaraderie between all the girls and all the the staff that help is just superb. This is my 4th year of doing I call it the women's Ross, because unfortunately I'm not from Ireland and Ross is a bit foreign to me.
Fair enough.
It's 4th year, and it just gets better, and the field this year is absolutely superb. It's phenomenal, the field, the quality of the riders over here, and the amount of foreign teams we've got. It's just going up and up.
It's a privilege to be in the competition, isn't it, when you look at the standard? What about your role? I see at this point, with the one lap to go through Abbey Leaks and back into town, you're giving riders their last drinks, as it were. What do you do after this?
Right, after this, so I've just handed energy up to them so they don't have to stop to take the bottles. As soon as they're finished, I will meet them on the finish line, hopefully with the podium bag, and I will prepare them for the podium, which basically involves me cleaning them up, giving them fresh jerseys, making sure they've got something to eat, some recovery for sitting on the seats while they're waiting to be presented. So I'm hoping to be on the podium with the girls. 1-2 will suit me nicely. For the rest of the girls, I'll have food ready and waiting for them. I've cooked rice this morning. That's in the fridge waiting for them. They'll have rice, they'll have tuna, sweet corn, bit of sweet chilli to make it all go down nicely. So that's all ready and rare and waiting for them to finish.
What about in the morning then, when you guys get up and running again tomorrow and for the next few days? What's the prep like from your perspective? I make sure they've all had a decent breakfast. They've got plenty of nutrition in them. I'll be cooking rice ready for them for the finish again. I'll be doing bottles, making sure they've got all the kit they need. Hopefully I'll have washed all their clothes tonight as well in the washing machine in the van, not hand wash. And hopefully I'll make sure that they've got all the kit that they need to start again and go for another day. You must be wrecked by the end of it.
I'm used to it by now, to be honest with you. I've been doing it for about 15 years or so. And before that I had a different role. So I've been involved in cycling since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Tell us, how did you get into it then?
My dad was a chief timekeeper, a judge, commissaire, which is basically all the official. So I've grown up with it since I've been a little girl. I've been pinning numbers on sweaty Almen in sort of like time trials. So it's something I've been involved with since whole my life.
Your natural environment. At least instead of sweaty men, it's sweaty women in this particular instance.
Yes, yeah, and they're not that old.
No. Wendy, look, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Pleasure.
The best of luck with the rest of this week.
Thank you.
Next on the programme, we're going to talk to a man who's dedicated his life to coaching Ireland's brightest stars in basketball.
Health and fitness
with DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Experience lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service for all your sporting needs at DS Sports, with gear ready in as little as 5 days. Contact 085 87 15 311 or info@dssports.ie.
Midlands 103.
Now, news came through over the course of the week that Paul Kelleher will be stepping away from the Irish international setup in basketball. He's been an underage coach with Basketball Ireland for the guts of 20 years. He joins us on Health and Fitness this evening. We're going to be talking about what it means to train and to coach young people, to mentor them through that really turbulent time in their life, all the while trying to extract and develop performance. It's a really fascinating dynamic, and I don't think there's anyone more qualified than Paul to talk us through it. Paul, thanks for joining us on Health and Fitness this evening. After 20 years, I mean, it's a huge slice of your life. You must have so many feelings and emotions about stepping away.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. First of all, it's nice to talk about these things, but it's been a massive part of my life. But I guess more importantly, it's these young people have given me so much more than I could possibly have given them. And in return, I think collectively and collaboratively, we've tried to create experiences that we can both enjoy. And we haven't just made this about basketball either. Like we try and make sure that they have a positive life experience off the floor, so that they can actually bring those connections onto the floor and help them perform the best they possibly can. So that's been the kind of the crux of the 20 years. And I suppose when I started out first, that wasn't a very part of what I did, or I didn't know a whole lot about that. But I guess as the years progressed, it became very evident that was an important part of helping them perform just as much as anything else.
How did you get involved initially?
It's a funny story, actually. It's I'd only been coaching 4 or 5 years. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I suppose 2 opportune times in my life, really, in terms of my school didn't have a boys basketball team. I was in 5th year. My brother came into the school. 10 or 11 of his friends also play basketball. I went to the women's coach and said, look, I think we need to start the boys basketball team. She says, I haven't got time. What I can do is you can coach them and I'll do the corrections on the stage and make sure that everything's safe and whatever. So kind of got started coaching at 17 in 5th year with that stuff. And then 5 years later, I was above in the Parochial Hall one day in Cork, and Francis Sullivan says to me, would you like to go a step higher? And I said, I'd love to. Brought me down to Neptune Stadium where the Irish under 16 trials were happening, and the head coach at the time, Mick James, who passed away a few years later, was there, and we got chatting, and that was in October 2004, and up until last week I was involved with underage Irish teams, and definitely the greatest part of my life in terms of coaching and stuff like that. So it's been fantastic.
Paul, something must have clicked with you then, considering, in a certain fashion, as you've described there, you really landed in this role or working with young people on the international stage. What do you think it was that kept you there for so long?
The challenge, connection. I'm a guidance counsellor now, and I was a substitute teacher for a long time before I got into guidance counselling and PE, and I suppose I just have had that connection, desire, love for being around young people, helping them achieve their dreams, and usually the players at that level have aspirations of going further in their basketball journey, whether it's in Europe or in the States or just want to kind of progress into Super League level here. But I've always liked helping young people, and it's part of what I wanted to do, and it was a great platform. And the challenge of going against when you're off the floor, of getting them connected and understanding the details of going to that next level was a massive appeal to me. But then obviously helping them achieve on the floor was something that just was a massive appeal to me. And the level of player, and then you're talking about basketball and the challenge of going against other coaches of that caliber outside the country. Every second of every minute of every quarter, of the game was just an absolute challenge, and you're constantly thinking and having to make decisions. So from my own perspective, that was a massive challenge. But then also obviously connecting with young people and helping them progress has just kept me there for 20 years. And it's it was a sad day last week when I had to send the email that it was time to step away for a little bit.
What has beckoned the decision in that respect?
I've coached Super League, and I've coached in season and out of season is the international stuff, and we just had no time, and some personal development stuff I'd like to do. No doubt I'll hope they'll have me back in a couple of years' time, maybe a bit small bit longer, but just some personal development stuff I'd like to achieve before I'm too old and can't get on these courses and stuff like that. So just felt it was a good time for me to stop, reflect, see areas I can improve on, and see if I can achieve those improvements, and maybe come back and help progress the national team program even further again.
Yeah, I think you're more than entitled to a bit of personal development, considering the time that you've been putting into the underage international setup. Talk to me about some of the kind of transferable skills you get from being a guidance counsellor, and I imagine carrying a lot of that knowledge and skill into the role with working with young people in a sporting context.
I think it's more the off-court stuff. Understanding what they carry into the long practices that we have, being away from home, how we can, not just me help the young players, but how their peers can help each other in their experience that they've had, may be able to benefit some of the players. Understanding that it's not just about the basketball, that is about the experience, that it is about connecting with each other. And, even liaising with parents this year was, I was with the 18s for the previous 7 years, and obviously they're a little bit older and a little bit more accomplished. They like to think they are anyway, but having to go back again with the 16s, and we haven't had that in 7 or 8 years. Having to help parents understand the young person's progress and off the court, and simple things like growing up and getting the bus, simple things like packing their own bags, and you'd be surprised that that's part of their development and understanding the independence required for that, and especially in today's society where we're quick to help and we're quick to try and fix, and that it's okay to fail, it's okay to forget something once, but how do we learn from that? And simple things like how they can transfer onto the court, and having each other's back, and the team building that we do and stuff like that. So, all that sort of stuff coming as a guidance counsellor, but definitely understanding the pressures that young people are under these days, and how we can help alleviate that as coaches. And probably the biggest learning I've had in the last couple of years, definitely.
Speaking of the pressure that young people are under these days, what, based on your experiences, your assessment of young people's relationship with competition? You know, I think there exist several streams of reality through every generation there. There's those that it means far too much, it's all that counts. There's those that aren't really focused on trying to compete or bring their best to a situation for whatever reason, and a lot of it in between or in the middle. What have you observed in the Irish international setup there, and what's it been like to work with players on that particular topic of developing their expectation and understanding of the importance of winning versus developing skills and capabilities?
I think it's a tough one. I think we've as Irish people, we want to compete and win all the time, and I think two things this past summer. This past summer, yeah, we look in our preparation. We beat Netherlands for the first time at this age group. We beat GB for the first time as any age group, and we beat Bosnia first time in any age group. But with those became the expectations that we should be beating everybody. And obviously, we're not the greatest country in the world at basketball, so kind of trying to taper those expectations and the expectations around the group, the external expectations, parents, friends, club coaches. Oh, you should be beating this team now because he beat that team. And obviously, like, building the consistency and understanding the processes, and if we go away from the processes, and that can have a detrimental effect, regardless of who we play with, or the expectations we should beat them or we shouldn't beat them. So understanding for young people to understand, to stick with our inner circle and kind of block out the noise outside the circle is a difficult task for any player. Now, I might say 14, 15, 16-year-old young people. So it's understanding that sort of stuff. But one thing that's been consistent over the 20 years, whenever we finish that last game and we get to the airport and we're on the way home, it's kind of like, we want this again. We want this competitive environment again. We don't want to go back to where things are perceived to be easy, or it's a local league game and maybe the level may not be at the level that we just come off of 12 days of significant level of competition. So I think for us, it's about now creating environments for these young people where that's a year-round thing. And I think the biggest thing that we have going against us compared to other countries is that they have that level of competition all year round. Okay. We're not there yet. So we don't understand the crunch moments. We don't understand how to handle the anxiety in our body with 30 seconds to go, we're down 4, or we're playing against GB and we're up 8 with 45 seconds to go, and all of a sudden they've hit 2 threes and now we're only up 2, and how we handle the last 15 seconds. I think the more we can create those environments, and that's what's going to help our young people handle the expectations of winning, handle the expectations of crunch moments. And that's something I think that as we continue to improve, and if you see our improvements this summer across the board, across all the male teams and all the female teams, we're getting slightly better at that. But that's because our players are outside the country and they're in those environments, whether it's in the States or whether it's in Europe, and they're coming back and bringing those expertise with them back to us as well. So we need to create those environments. I think the more that we create those environments, I think the more improvements we'll see at underage international level. But we are making strides, and that's the biggest thing. And how we can bandwagon on those strides is going to be for us to kind of improve on and maintain.
In terms of the domestic scene, like looking at, say, our region here, we've got really great clubs like in Tullamore, Athlone, obviously Portlaoise Panthers and that type of thing. What do clubs in Ireland need, do you think, on an underage basis to develop and improve the not just the quality of player, but as you're describing there, players who have a more full experience set when they get to the international stage?
I think we need to invest in our coaches. I think we've got some tremendous people around the country at the moment. Really great people, whether it's in the Midlands, you've got some really great coaches coming through and involved in our academies and stuff like that. But I think we need to invest in our coaches, and kind of, I know when I started out, the things I'm aware of now, I had no clue 25 years ago. None whatsoever. Kind of had an idea of that these things helped and whatever, but I didn't understand the benefit of them and what the tangible positive outcomes could be. So I think we need to invest in our coaches to help them understand earlier And with that, then the players are going to improve. And with that, the environment is going to improve. And with that, competition is going to improve.
Let's just bring you back to reflecting on your time in the underage setup over the last 20 years to finish up. You will have worked with players, obviously, and watched them grow up into adults, and they may have left basketball behind, or they may have made it a real part of their life as they go into their 20s and beyond. What's that feeling like, knowing that you've been part of their personal and sporting development? I imagine for an underage coach, it must be a huge payoff when you know that you've been a figure in their history and in their own personal story.
It's probably the biggest joy you get more than anything else. You might not have heard from a player in a couple of years, and they send you a message from, somewhere they've been, and next all of a sudden it kind of resonates with their journey as an international player, and you get the message, I just came across this, and it just reminded me of when we were here or there or whatever it was, So, one of the things that we did this past summer was when we were in Macedonia, we were an hour away from Kosovo, so we brought the players up to Pristina to the Irish Defence Force, and they were absolutely tremendous with the young men that we had, and gave them a really memorable day. We played the American Army in a friendly scrimmage, and they brought us around the campsite and stuff like that. And in a few years' time, they'll talk about that. And when we posted it, and the Irish Defence Force posted it, the guys that we did it with back in 2018 kind of made contact and said, "Geez, I remember our day with that." And we were down with the Austrians, and they showed us their equipment and things like that. So I think it's more the off-court stuff that kind of helps us build those sort of relationships rather than the actual on-court. But it's the off-court stuff that then helps us to maintain the intensity that can come with on-court competition, and the accountability environments and stuff like that. So I think it's those sort of things that will probably resonate with me over the years, and players kind of making their next steps into US and college systems, and messaging me saying, "Oh, they had the same things we had. It's easier for me to settle in now," and things like that. So it's those sort of things that kind of make me smile when they make contact and let me know that they're in a place that kind of resonated with us. And they're the things that I miss.
Yeah, well, Paul, I suppose, look, as you've outlined there, it's a huge responsibility that you've been carrying for the last 20 years, and hopefully you get many more messages like that into the future, which I've no doubt that you will. Congratulations on what was a fantastic career with the underage setup, and we look forward to hearing about that time when you do return to either the international setup or basketball generally. Good luck with everything going forward.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
We're done for another week on Health and Fitness. Thanks for being with me. Joe Cooney is standing by with Country Roads after the news at 8. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.